So here we are with a demonstration now using trust as an example of how to use values and how to make use of these cards. This is one of my favorite conversations because trust is really the foundation for how every group works. If you have a group that you meet with regularly, or whether you are setting up a temporary community, trust is the economy that actually makes all of our interactions and all of our relationships work. So I love speaking about trust. Here's one way that I like to do it. So we'll always do an activity first, just like I suggested with the tips. And then we'll speak about trust and we'll look at the definition: a confident hope and reliance. That's what trust means. And we'll have a conversation about that. And then the key value that I want to focus on, I'll actually place on the floor, but here I'm going to do it on the wall, and I'll put it in the middle. So there's trust. And then we're going to start talking about what are the values that we need that help trust work. This is this idea of building clusters of values. So the first one is being trustworthy. Now, in some other values, we just talk about one value and put the others around it. Here, I always put trustworthy right next to trust. Because if you don't have somebody that's trustworthy, trust won't work. So again, we'll talk about the definition: deserving of dependability. Okay, and then we'll add it to the wall. So this is happening on the floor in front of the leaders or the students or the campus or whoever it is, the adult, like whoever the people that you're working with. And so now we're focusing on these two values, trust and trustworthiness. And in the flow of conversation now, I'm asking, well, what other values do we need to make trust and trustworthiness work? And then the other values start coming out. You might need to use some stories. You've just done an activity, so you'll be reflecting on that activity. Hey, in that activity, when trust was high, what was there? When trust was low, what were we missing? And then you'll start to get these kind of values. Reliability. Okay, so we need some reliability to make trust work. We're going to need some commitment. So we're going to add that to our picture. We're going to need some respect. Yeah, because if people are not respecting each other, well, what's going to happen to our trust? Is it going to go up or down? It's going to go down if there's not enough respect. So we're going to need some respect to make trust work. We're going to need some communication, and then we'll unpack a little bit more what communication is. So here it says the interchange of thoughts, but you and I know that communication is like, there's the listening part, there's the talking part, there's the understanding part, and so we'll unpack all of that. And then we'll talk about, well, how do they all relate to trust? What does it mean to use communication to build trust? Because we can use communication to break trust too, can't we? And then we'll unpack all of those. But communication is essential to building trust. So we'll add it. And then we might add one more, and so we'll add fun. Okay, and you know, trust is built exponentially when things are fun, and so we'll add that. And so you can see what we've done as I've mimicked this conversation that I would use with whoever I'm coaching. We've got a central value. Here it's trust and trustworthiness. And surrounded it, we've got all of the values that really make that value work. So we're building this idea of values work together. We spoke about them individually. We looked at each of their definitions. We experienced it first. So when I do this, I would do some trust activities first. There are so many classic trust activities: a trust fall, a trust run, where you run through everyone's arms and they lift it up. Spider's web. There are so many activities you could use. Something with blindfolds is always really good. But I'd love to do the experience first and then debrief afterwards. What happened? Let's have a look at what we did, because a value is what you do. And so then to conclude, then we'll look at, okay, so which one of these do we need to work on the most? If we want to grow our trust, do we need to work on reliability, commitment, respect, fun, or communication the most to to grow our trust, and then we'll make a choice. So let's say we needed to work on our communication the most to improve our trust. Great, so we go to the next activity, the next day of camp, the next conversation or whatever, and now we're really focused on the value of our communication and what we need to do with our communication to help grow our trust. Then we'll come back to this at another time and say, hey, how did we go? Another really cool tip to use when you're investigating values is to score them or grade them. So let's do that now. So I could go around the group and I could say, hey, show me with your thermometer how much trust do we have in this group. So this is really low trust, this is medium, this is high. In fact, this is so high, if we went to war, I'd be happy to die for you now. And then you get everybody to respond. Oh, my trust is about here, or my trust is here. And then you can monitor how the trust is growing. So you go and do a couple of activities. We've gone and done something else. We've worked on our communication, and we can see that our trust has grown a little bit. And we're always trying to show how our values have grown and how we as a group have grown. This is the powerful part of values, and it's this part that tills the soil, because we're showing how we're growing. And so the things we know about how to treat each other, we're putting into practice and we're getting better. Very powerful tool. Another way is to give a score out of 10. This is really cool. Okay guys, so here we are at our first activity. I'm giving you an example. And so tell me, out of 10, how much do you trust the group? Let's go around and everybody give me a score. Okay, a 2, a 3, a 5, an 8. Or you must be really close to everybody here. A 2, a 5, a 3. Great, okay. So we've got a varying amount of trust in the group. Let's see what happens after we do these activities. We'll go and do some activities. We'll come and use these values cards as a debrief, and then we'll see again what the score is. Okay, so go around now and give me your score. And so the numbers usually go up, and that shows, hey, we've grown these values. Isn't that great? What does it feel like? What do you think now? These kind of questions really help consolidate the growth of values. That's why I love using this tool in all of my personal growth, leadership work. So there you go. That's one example of how to use values cards.